Is this working? I think it's working. Looks like we're live. What's happening, everybody? Everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. So basically, this live show has been going on for years, right? And it's been a lot of fun. And I think I've talked about Mopars more than a lot of folks, sure. I have certainly more than exhausted the topic, right? Like it's been, this horse has been beaten to a nice fine powder, it seems like at this point. But there's still never failed to be guys that are into wanting to make their Mopar hot rods even hotter or roddier. And so I love chatting with folks. But I also have other interests, motorcycles being the primary other interest that I'm getting to. And so if you ever have questions about that or want to talk bikes, Tuesdays are going to be more moto chat as opposed to Mopar chat. So going to be making a bit of a switch there, talking more motorcycle centric stuff on Tuesdays. So that will be fun. There's a lot to talk about. There's a ton going on in the motorcycle world. And I think that it's just more of a diverse group. It's more of a diverse product lineup. And there's a lot of guys that watch the show that also are into bikes too. So I would love to talk Mopar stuff. I always will, or any other car performance chat too. Obviously, I've never really waffled with my enjoyment for the Mopar products, but here lately, the Ford stuff has been a lot more intriguing for me. So, but at any rate, Tuesdays are going to be moving a little bit more to motorcycle stuff than the normal Mopar based or car stuff. Now, with all that being said, what's there to talk about from the Mopar camp? Well, so far, let's review. The Demon 170 continues to disappoint and be less than a beacon of inspiration for young comers into the Mopar family. With the number of actual as delivered Demon 170s that have actually cracked the number of 9.1 or 9.0, 8.90, even give some credit, given a little bit of a mulligan with a couple of tenths. You're not seeing a lot of that. And I get it. There's reasons for that. The density altitude concerns and everything else. But with all the problems that have come from Dodge, and the Demon 170, I don't want to just harp on the bad stuff. What I want to do is I want to give some advice to you guys if you are thinking about buying a Scat Pack, if you're thinking about buying an RT or a Hellcat variant. I don't care which one it is, whether it's a Hellcat, a Trackhawk, a Durango, any of the Red Eye variants, which includes anything with a 2.7 liter supercharger. Because it is now, we're halfway through October. It might as well be at this point of 2024, which is to say that, the Challenger and Charger, as we knew them with Hemi engines, it's been done for about a year. It's coming up on a year. And if you are the owner of any of these Hemi powered cars, and I mean the cars specifically here, I'm not really getting into the trucks, it's the cars. I'm gonna say you're gonna need to start to stock up on replacement parts if you're going to keep this vehicle long term, say for the next 10, 15 years. If this is the car for you and you love it, love it, love it, we need to talk, because these cars suffer from electrical problems. The longer you keep them, the worse and the more varied and frighteningly annoying that they can be and will be. There's some things that you need to buy, wrap them in plastic, shrink wrap it, vacuum seal it, and have these components ready for when you're going to need them, because you're going to need them, especially if you've got a Hellcat. Heed my warnings on this. All right. So before I dive into the list, let me check in with you early birds. Marco Muay Thai, my man, is in. God, I've been hanging on cardio lately too. My rowing has gotten worse, but my stepper has gotten better and my footwork has gotten way better. So there you have it. Ryan, sup, man? David is in. Ryan McKenzie Mopar always looked the best to me, but lately, I don't know. Well, the newer stuff certainly doesn't. The newer design language, what the hell happened with that? Itch is in. Good to see you. Ryan is in. Mopar Electrical Gremlin. Ryan, you've already hit the nail on the head with this. So what are you going to need to buy? First things first, I want to talk about Hellcat variants just because, well, I'm going to talk about Hellcat variants, but many of these parts will bleed over into the NA variety. So right off the bat, Hellcat guy, you're going to need to buy a new fuel rail and fuel pressure sender. That's going to be about $400. You're going to need to get at least one, if not two. And the reason why I say that is because although there have been no failures with the latest crop of fuel pressure sensors, it is part of the fuel rail. You can't buy them separately. And so if you do end up with a problem later on down the road, you're going to need to have replacement parts. So I would buy at least one, if not two of those. Oh yeah, some of these parts, I'm going to tell you to buy two of them because I've seen multiple failures. And by the way, that fuel pump or the fuel pressure sensor and fuel rail, that's primarily a 2015 and 2016 issue. Next on the list, I'm going to say, okay, next on the list, I'm going to say radiator. We're going to start underneath the hood. You'll be able to buy Mishimoto radiators indefinitely. So I'm not so much worried about that, but just know that your radiator is going to age out. And since we're basically looking at about 10 years for all of the 2015 Hellcat and the, well, this goes across, this cross-pollinates because this is for the NA guys too. Don't be surprised when you start seeing little drips of coolant underneath your car. These radiators suck and they're going to start to fail. Don't replace them with a stock. Put a Mishimoto in and you'll be in great shape. Plus, you get a little bit more cooling capacity. Oh, Martin's saying that he caught a glimpse of the new car driving around in his area last week. Didn't get a good look at it, but the silhouette had me thinking it was a Challenger at first. Yeah, it's got a lot of Challenger in it. So, and that will pretty much sum up everything that you need to worry about under the hood. If you've got a Hellcat, fuel pressure sensor is going to be a thing, but you're going to have to get the whole fuel rail assembly. Just go ahead and order one now or two. And in the case of the radiator, you're going to end up having to go aftermarket anyway. You know what to do. So next, we're going to go to the interior of the car. Now, this is where you're going to be spending the majority of your money. So let's get started. First thing you're going to want to do, Uconnect screen. Go ahead and just order it because it's going to end up flaking out or failing at some point. And Ryan, yes, TPMS sensors. Oh, so I still have, where is it? Where is that thing? Wheel speed sensor. I still have it. We're going to get to the exterior and all of that here in a minute, but well, no. Okay. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and do that. Ryan's bringing it up, but yes, wheel speed sensors and TPMS sensors. By the way, I recently KO'd the wheel speed sensors in my wife's Jeep because I couldn't figure out which one wasn't reading. And I recently replaced the TPMS sensors in Buffy because they leaked freaking air. Let me tell you what I'm looking for in a valve stem. All right. I'm looking for it to not leak air, and it would actually prolapse out of the rim and it would start leaking, if you believe that. So yeah, to the tune of $226 or something, $228, whatever it was. Yes, I had to replace the TPMS sensors. Get a set of TPMS sensors and get the kind that are going to be like, I can't remember the actual name of the ones that I got, but they're metal, screw in, they're heavy duty, they're not going to go anywhere. But you want to get the best quality TPMS sensor that you can and the best valve stem that you can. So make sure you invest in that now if you plan on keeping that car for any real length of time. As Ryan's already said, wheel speed sensors, just replace them. Here's the problem. You can only replace them with car parts. There's a funny thing with these cars, the LX platform cars. They will not recognize aftermarket wheel speed sensors in some cases. You have to get them from Dodge. So order them now. Have them show up, put them in a Ziploc bag, and throw them into the freaking, I don't know, your toolbox, your lunchbox that has all your extra crap. Front wheel hubs. This is another thing. The wheel bearing itself that has the exciter ring. Go ahead and order one for both sides. Yes, these are expensive, but here's the problem. That tone ring also flakes out. I've had one go bad. I don't even know how that part could possibly go bad, but it did. So there you have it. You're going to want to replace those at some point anyway. Go ahead and order them up. You'll thank me for this. It's an easy thing to repair and replace. I've done it to Buffy on both sides. You're going to want to do that. But again, getting back into the car, yes, Uconnect screen is garbage. Just go ahead. You might want to order one of those and just have it sitting around. Now is the best time to order one of those while they're still readily available, because as time goes on, they're not going to be. Next on the list of things that you're going to need to replace, probably sooner than later, and this is where things get really nutty. Fuel pump. You need to order 2 fuel pumps. And no, these are not cheap, but you need to have these things sitting around ready to go. The stock fuel pumps on Hellcats, and I'm regular Hellcats, are junk. What happens is they'll start to lose pressure over time. You'll only find this if you're doing regular data logs and wide open pulls. And what'll happen is instead of pulling 80 PSI or 78 PSI, it starts pulling like 65 PSI. It's not enough. When those pumps start to fail, they'll actually gradually start to lose pressure. I don't know if the clearances are opening up. I don't know what the problem is. But I've seen this happen on every one of the Hellcats that I've fooled with that were stock pump combinations that were pre-2019. Maybe the later cars, just their pumps hadn't had a chance to fail yet, but this is a problem. It's a known problem that's all quiet as kept. Don't get one, get 2. If you're doing a lot of hammering on the car, this is a part that can fail. So just know that coming into the conversation. Along with this, you need to order up 2 fuel pump drivers. It's a little module that's behind the panel on the passenger side, right behind or right in the trunk area. You're going to need to order 2 of those. When they go bad, the car will just quit running. It may start running again, or it might just quit altogether. This will leave your ass stranded on the side of the road. No question about it when this thing fails. Why did it have a fuel pump driver? I don't know. But it does, and you're going to have to replace it. It's super easy to replace, provided you know where it is. I've got a video floating around in my playlist somewhere where I did, in fact, show me replacing the fuel pump driver on my Hellcat because it went out. So that's how I know about that contraption. So if, again, you're planning on keeping this car, what are you going to have to replace? I'll go through the list again. Fuel pressure sensor, which is part of the fuel rail setup. The new fuel rail, by the way, will have a Schrader valve, which is good. Your radiator is going to let go at some point. You're absolutely going to have to replace every wheel speed sensor on the car, and you might as well just do it now. And you're also going to need to replace potentially the hubs themselves up front. You've got in the interior, your Uconnect, your fuel pump driver for sure are all going to need to be replaced at some point. And this is where, and I mentioned the radiator. If I did, well, you'll know it when it leaks. Here's the deal, though. The guys that stay on top of this are are the ones that end up wanting to get rid of their car, because you start to look at all these just annoying little things that start to flake out. And there's nothing fun about this. There's nothing interesting about losing drive modes because one of your wheel speed sensors just decided to flake out. So there is that. Hurricane saying, I was able to replace the Uconnect TFT part of the screen about 2 years ago for $25. Radio Uconnect was fine, but the screen bubbled up and ghost presses. Ugh, that sucks. Him saying, my Uconnect screen flipped out at the track one evening. He'll replace it at no cost and said they had a lot of bad screens. That was about 4 or 5 years ago and no issues with the screen since. So guys, mine flipped out during Spring Nationals. Can you believe that? Mine flaked out when I was when Chris and I were doing the exhibition passes. And I've got, guys, you have to understand, Houston Raceway Park, packed to the rafters. All right, there's, I don't know how many tens of thousands of people are watching me going down the track. And I've got a Uconnect screen that's just, we're not going to play fair today. And I just had to say, screw it, man. I had to run. I had to just, here we go. It's going to do whatever it's going to do. And we ended up still side by side. Had two of the closest races of Spring Nationals were me and Chris going down the track. So we had three passes that we made as brand ambassadors. And I got to tell you, I mean, the car did well, but I was so stressed out of my gourd, I couldn't see straight. And so, yeah, when I needed it to work the most, it failed. Thanks. Oh, one last thing. Body control module. I knew I was forgetting something. You're going to need to buy not one, but two body control modules and have them programmed to your vehicle. The reason why I say that is because that's part of the reason why the Uconnect screen can flake out, is because the body control module starts to kind of skip out. So yeah, there's some stuff going on with Dodges that just, it can be very frustrating. And because of that, this is one of the reasons why it's not like this makes up a vast majority, but this is one of the reasons why some of the Hellcat owners and Scat Pack owners, for that matter, will end up getting rid of their car. So very frustrating, very annoying. But for the most part, guys, the reality is that these cars, the engine, the transmission, all pretty good, especially the 2019 and up cars. If you've got a 2019 and up car, you've got a better Uconnect screen, a better operating system for that matter. I like the tune in the 2019 and up cars more. Primarily has to do with cam phasing. They're consistently about a tenth and a half quicker. So what's weird though is that they don't put down any more power, but they are consistently quicker. So for whatever that's worth, little bit better. It's almost like it's just better on transition. Shifting is a little bit better. So if you got a 2019 car, you're a little bit more in the clear, but just be aware that if it's a Hellcat variant, dude, you're gonna have some headaches. You're gonna have to. There's going to be some waters you're just going to have to cross. That's all there is to it. But aside from that, I wanted to kind of put that PSA out there because that's something that had come up in a conversation with myself and a couple of buddies. And I was just saying, look, if you're planning on keeping your car, you're going to want to long-term buy up some parts. And the first one that came to mind was, fuel pump, but then everything electrical that could go wrong or can go wrong. Man, you want to make sure that you've got the right parts already locked down. You don't want to have to go searching for them. Not to mention, if you buy them now, it's never going to be cheaper than buying them today because the pricing on this stuff for a future need is going to go up, 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 and up. So it's my advice to go that route. So Ryan, yeah, the Mopar electric gremlins. What's funny is that, any of these electrical problems are always the biggest gremlin for folks because You can't there. It's not like a bleeding wound, right? Like it's not like you can just look at it and go, oh, it's failing because of it. It's very tough. I'm having to deal with that right now with a motorcycle that is. I'm going to have to pull that T-bird apart, and I am dreading it. Only because I don't. Oh my God, having to pull something apart and I'm not making it faster. Ugh, how boring. Anyway. And I need to get it done quick because we're getting into prime riding season. And if Smoking Hot and I are going to go for a ride, it's going to be on the T-bird, unless we're just kind of farting around town. So in that case, it's the Bonneville. But at any rate, yeah, these are some things that you're going to have to look out for. And again, if you're planning on buying a used version of one of these cars and you happen to stumble across this live show, hopefully this helps you out, because I'm telling you, in a number of years, these are going to get more and more expensive, and it's going to be more and more of a headache to get your hands on them. So there is that. Now, as far as any, Ryan, it's mundane task, not challenge. That's why, I bet. Yeah. But yeah, as far as any of the new stuff, for example, any of the newer Mopars that have landed, there's, the Challenger, the Charger 2-door, the Charger 4-door, whatever, these EVs are going to be landing soon enough. I'm sorry, but there's nothing good is coming from this. Everybody that I've talked to about that have the means to get one of these things, that would actually benefit from getting one of these cars, has absolutely flat denied the opportunity for it. It's just the way that it sits right now. Nobody is talking about them in the way that I think Dodge would have hoped. And it just feels like, to me right now, Dodge really is trying to bury the brand, or Stellantis is trying to bury the brand. And that's a real shame, but it's just a sign of the times, guys. I don't know what else to say. But as we get further and further into the next couple of years, depending on how things go, we're going to be, it's my wife. Yeah, my wife's notification's a fart. So as we get further and further into the next couple of years, we'll see where other manufacturers are going to land. I guess that is kind of more the focus moving forward. And I mean, we're not seeing reset on this. We're not hearing anything from Dodge that's exciting. You hear this from Ford a lot. Chevrolet doesn't even count in this conversation. Chevrolet is an aftermarket entity, and that's it. So to try to say that, okay, we're going to have a chat about what Chevy is doing versus Ford and Dodge, that's an answer that only the aftermarket can come up with, because Chevrolet's involvement, at least from so far as what I've seen, is pretty limited when it comes to their LSX platform. It's not like what Ford is with the Coyote. So over the next coming years, seeing how aggressive Ford gets with the F-150, for example, seeing how aggressive Ford is getting with their supercharger offerings for the Mustang, that's another place to look. These are cars that are garnering excitement, and you see them getting a lot of airtime on social media. The reason why they're getting so much airtime is because they're still relevant. You still have manufacturers that are actively and enthusiastically going after their brand loyalists, and they're finding a revenue stream there in their high performance divisions. all you have to look no further than the F-150. You could get bored to tears watching 4x4 regular cab short bed F-150s with 1,000 horsepower, 800 horsepower, just ripping on the street, right? Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. And so when you start to look at this from the point of view of when you start to look at this from the point of view of the average enthusiast, this is what they're going to see first. And they're seeing supercharged Mustangs and supercharged F-150s out there ripping it up. And there is no time clock on the street, right? There's nothing to judge how that performance really adds up, how it really stacks up. So, and this is another area where Dodge has been and may do exceptionally well with the Hurricane Charger. But no, I mean, draggy videos are all that matter. And, you know, you're starting to see guys, I mean, who cares about going to a drag strip anymore? With all-wheel drive vehicles, you make a hit and then you're done. You don't have to pay $20, $30, $40, $50 and, you know, have to go through tech and wait in line and do all this other stuff. You just go out there and make a rip on the street because these vehicles will perform the way that they would have performed on the track on the street. They're all-wheel drive. You get out there and make a rip, have a hit, do it 3 or 4 times and you're done. And I'm not advocating street racing or breaking the law. I'm just telling you what other people are doing. They get their business done pretty quick and that's it. So not to mention you can't really do 60 to 130 hits at the drag strip. But that's where these cars do their best work. That's where these trucks are really shining. And that's where the social media is going these days. It's not caring at all about Dodge. Not in the least. Matter of fact, I was looking around, I was seeing what are some of the latest videos coming from any of the Dodge channels that I used to or would have followed. There aren't any. There's no content on this, not so far as I can tell, not in the way that you would hope that there would. And the guys that are still putting out content, cheers to them. Love you guys. But I mean, I'm seeing the feedback. I mean, it's about as good as mine is right now. It's not statistically all that great. Skids is in. What's up? Skids saying, hey, Ryan, just got back a little bit from a nice jaunt out to Jefferson, East Texas. Remind me of Missouri a little bit. Had a great time. Nice. I was supposed to go ride tomorrow. I am not going to be able to, and it is making me crazy right now. I'm so bummed out. Had something really weird happen with the Katana. It's not the bike's fault. It's a me fault. And I still can't figure out how I managed to screw up something as basic and simple as I did. But somehow or another, I did. Anyway, I'll get to it once I get the parts in, but it is something that I have never in my freaking life seen before. And it's one of these parts that's good. It's a 50-cent part that cost me $10 and it's going to be 2 more weeks before it shows up. I will be losing my mind in the meantime. But there's that. Like, look, the all-wheel drive Hurricane is going to do well. I only want to talk about the EVs because EVs are way too divisive. And it's frustrating. I'll just leave it at that. It's very so because we don't have anything to talk about, but the Hurricane all-wheel drive cars will be the only ones that I will really be interested in, at least in terms of content. And that is going to be that is going to last about as long as a fart in a stiff breeze, because it simply isn't going to have the same pop, that same it factor that the Hellcat did for a lot of folks. And already we've seen the divisiveness from other enthusiasts when it comes to that car having a 6-cylinder. Personally, I love that it has a 6-cylinder. I love turbo 6 engines. The problem is that it's packaged in something that looks like it was made out of freaking Play-Doh. I'm sorry, guys, but the more I see of that car, the less I want to see of it. I mean, this isn't even one of those things where I, hate to see it go, but love to watch it leave. No, I don't want to see it show up. It's an ugly ass car. And I mean that literally. From the back third of that thing looks completely unproportionate. I don't get who greenlit that design. There was something else they could have or should have done. The C-pillar looks like a freaking tall ship's sail. It's not a good look. The tire, so there is a, how do I do this? For the belt line of the car, there is a ratio that you have for tire and wheel arch height versus the height of the car itself. And if I remember correctly, hold on, let me look at something real quick. Anyway, the idea is that you don't want it to be much more than, you don't want say this is the bottom of the car, right? Hang on. I'm going to use this thing as a visual aid. Time I did something with it. Okay, so let's say this is the car. All right. What you don't want is for your tire to be from this distance. It's not sitting down, the double of it. Okay. The idea is that the wheel arch is 50% of the height of the car. God, did it take me that long to get that out of my mouth? Jesus. Anyway, that's the idea. You don't want it to be much more than that. It can be some more, but the idea is that it's 50% on the back of a car. That formula works amazingly well. And it has failed in that car somehow or another. For some reason, last time I remember seeing it, and this is the first thing that caught my eye, was that the wheel arch looked low and small versus the height of the ass of that car. And I could not wrap my head around why in any world that we live in that this perfect ratio that people have been working off of for decades, how does that get screwed up with this car? Listen, you can't screw it up like this unless it's on purpose. I'm sorry. You cannot convince me that the styling language of that car, as convoluted as it is, it's like it's sabotage. You ever think about it like that? It really does give the sense that it's sabotage, that it looks terrible, it doesn't flow well, and it's cartoonishy looking. In fact, it looks like what a kid's, like if a kid were trying to draw a car, that's what it looks like. It looks like some shit that I would draw, right? Like if I would never look, it looks bad. And that alone is reason people buy cars based on how they look just as much as they do on how they perform. And if this thing doesn't perform very well, it could at least look fantastic, and it doesn't do that. But the HO variant of this thing, is going to be fast. There's no getting around this. The HO Hurricane 6 Charger is going to scream because it's all-wheel drive. And then you're going to have Charger versus F-150. This is going to be all over the place before you know it. Every F-150 4x4 pickup truck with either NA builds or more than likely some supercharged builds, every 10-second pickup truck is going to go sniping after one of these cars. And the thing is that just absolutely murk one of these things on the street. And they'll do it for about $30,000 less. Ah, crap. That's the thing, the expense of this car. Right now, Dodge is having a hell of a time selling motorized vehicles to the general public. Folks just don't like the brand right now. They don't like it because it really doesn't have a soul. I mean, let's face it. electric cars, leave that to Tesla. They do a phenomenal job at electric car. Let them do their job. I understand that there are reasons why. We don't need to get into that necessarily, but the fact of the matter is this might be a whole lot of wasted money on this EV, and it's hurting morale for Dodge brand loyalists. And think of it from this point of view. If you don't own a house, you've got a townhome, an apartment, live in a mid-rise or something like that, but you want one of these new Chargers. Let's say, I don't know, you're something wrong with your eyes and you love the way that they look. Beauty is the eye of the beholder. Customer's always right, and matters of taste. Here's the thing. You love the car, but you don't really have a means to be able to charge it realistically. Well, okay, no big deal. What you can or could do is buy the gasoline powered variant, right? Well, we don't even know when that thing is going to hit. That could be another year away. And that's a big problem. And for those people that would have bought that car that now won't, that want something that's performance oriented, now we're looking at mainstream, readily accessible and easily modifiable vehicles like the Mustang or the 6th gen Camaro or the Supra or whatever else it might be. That's what they're looking at. That's what they're moving towards. That's the direction that they're headed. And unfortunately, that's what you're going to be stuck with. You're going to be stuck with a bunch of folks that decided to go a different route. And then when that Hurricane 6 powered Charger hits the streets at the pricing that they're talking about it hitting the streets at, I don't know that even it is going to be readily accessible or accepted. So I don't know. It's saying, will the Hurricane Charger of the 6-pack cars be released if the Charger EV flops? The Charger EV is going to flop. And yeah, they're going to have to release it. My whole argument to that was, look, if you release the gas engine now, then you can get the cars on the road. People will start to see them and go, oh, Nito, mosquito, what's that? They can start to put in work against the Scat Packs and the RTs of their kind, right? Plus Mustangs and Camaros or whatever. You can get some pub on that car in that respect, and then drop the EV. Go, hey, man, if you like that, hey, we got this super Nito, we got this EV thing. Okay, cool. But you don't, the EV feels like it's being shoved down our throats. And this is, I mean, it's a bad taste in the mouth that we're all getting with this. Oh, Skids, yeah, I was looking around for a supercharger kit for a C8, 15 grand for a supercharger. Dang, that's actually not too bad. The Model 3 does look better than the Charger. It looks a lot better. And it's quicker. It's quite a bit quicker. DM is in. What is up? This bump. But yeah, man, y'all know my place on that. And to be fair, guys, listen, I'm gonna be real transparent with you guys. Okay, so I know that we can talk about ifs all day long. I had budgeted for one of the all-wheel drive Hurricane 6 high output Chargers. And what I was going to do with that car was use it a little bit as a development car and obviously get the draggy videos and, some kind of content going with this thing, right? And that would have been neat. That would have been a lot of fun. And as a content creator, if I want to call myself that, sounds weird. But as such, I can't really, how do I put this? It can't just be what I want to do. It has to be what has universal appeal across the board and across, borders. It's got to be something that is a revenue generating entity for the channel, because this is a business after all, as much as I would like to say that it's not. This isn't a hobby. This is a business, and I have to run it as such. So when you look at it like that, when you start to look at what that car could bring to the channel, it would make sense. But here's the problem. It can only make sense provided that it pays for itself, because it just can't write off losses and depreciation like that. It's not, it doesn't work like that as much as you might think that it does. And so the reality is that at the end of the day, what goes out has to come back in plus some, or it's simply not worth it. And here's the thing. So far as I can tell, even the Hurricane 6 car is divisive enough, not just for the fact that it has a 6-cylinder. That's not the part that bugs. It's just how the thing looks and how it's slated to look. And there's just a lot of folks that aren't all that interested in it. Not to mention, this is the thing that sucks. And this is the big thing that kept me from really making a play for this. There could have been some phone calls that could have been made, and I could have gotten to the front of the lists had I wanted to, but I just didn't like the car. I did not like the look. It's way too big. It weighs way too much. And I am not a player on a vehicle that weighs as much as that car is going to weigh with that amount of power. It's just not worth it to me. I would much rather, for far less money, like far less money, go RCSP F-150, put it in the weeds and a blower on a Coyote platform, get out there and run, I don't know, mid to low tens, and basically build a car or a truck that's every bit as quick as my Hellcat, that will be every bit as quick as my Hellcat was on the track, but do it on the street. I mean, if I'm going to do a build, that would be the smart play, right? And hell, I mean, get an extended cab truck, get a crew cab truck. Hell, I've got the truck already, so I could do it to that thing. The point of all this is, there's so many people that are eaten up over the fact that the new Charger doesn't have a V8, that they don't care what kind of number it gets. They don't care how fast the thing's going to be anyway. The new Charger just has lost appeal in so many weird ways. Like, it's okay, Marco, you'll get this. So if you ever do defense drills in boxing, any kind of martial art that you're actively defending against strikes or takedowns, it is the most exhausting thing to do to be in a ring with somebody who is running at about 40 or 50% speed, and you're just moving like this. You're just ducking. You're just barely moving your head because you don't ever know this is it. And you're just watching leather coming at you. And the thing is if you have to make sure that your partner in this is not setting up a pattern to where you're actually moving and you're like a clock. You've got to have somebody that's going to throw feints. You've got to have somebody that's going to mess your timing up completely, and you're going to get peppered. Like, it's almost like, and there's nothing you can do about it, especially if you're only doing head solo drills. You can work on parries. You can work on, different stances, Philly type stuff, play around with things. But if you're specifically working on head feints and head drills, it sucks. And so that's what it feels like whenever I start talking about Dodge. I feel like I'm doing these stupid little head feint drills that every time I try to say something good about the car, there's an automatic response of it's not a V8. There's an automatic response of it's not a Hemi. There's an automatic response that, well, the car's too heavy. There's an automatic response that it's not what it used to be. And that's one of the most annoying things, because there's it kind of screws up your time, because I want to be able to, I would want to be able to put some killer content out with these cars. But the way that YouTube works, guys, if I'm not trying to jump over a ditch with this thing, or I don't set it on fire and drive it down the highway or ghost ride it or something, if you're not doing something completely stupid, you don't garner up enough views to make the thing pay for itself. So, and you got to have consistent content. The other thing that bothers the hell out of me with that car, and there's some objective issues that come up with this car that do scare me. And that is, it's a first run. I'm scared that thing is going to have all kinds of problems. And if that thing goes into the shop, I'm down. I'm out, and we've already seen what happens when that happens with 170 issues. So anyway, there is that to consider. But for you guys, that I know some guys have asked me, and they've been real serious. Okay, when are you really not going to get the new Charger? I'm really not going to get one, guys. Sorry. Not unless, I mean, it'd have to be an HO, a base model, and Dodge would have to come to me and go, look, unbelievably smoking deal. Here is a gag order. Don't say anything. An NDA, non-disclosure, almost said a DNR, which is do not resuscitate. No, doesn't resuscitate, motherfucker. No, an NDA. And here's your car, and get out there and do something cool. I would do that in a heartbeat for Dodge, because to me, I feel like I owe it to Dodge to do something cool like that. But my God, the money that we're all looking at, it just scares the hell out of me. So, Sovereign saying he's really not excited about the new Charger. They're really not excited about anything from Dodge. Stellantis made sure of that. Skid say, hey, Armag, counting down the days for that CF Moto 675. Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing. CF Moto 675 is going to be put right in the same category as, and let's talk bikes for a minute, because that's a lot more fun for me to talk about. So the CF Moto 675 is going to be a kick-ass bike. It's going to fall right in line with the Daytona 660, the 660 Tuono. It's going to fall in line with the CBR 650, the R7, the GSX-8R. It's going to fall in line with all of that. So it's going to be another sport bike. And I've got it. The thing is that terminology now with motorcycles is such that it's a fluid language. And so for me, sport bike is anything that is that sub 100 horsepower kind of sport naked derived fully fared motorcycle. That is a sport bike. So, but also sport bike would also include this new group of 900cc motorcycles that are coming down the list that are based off of sport nakeds, like the R9 and the RC8R. The only one that I can think of that doesn't really, it does, but it doesn't fall into that category would be the 950 SS Ducati, because I don't think that's based off of, that's still based. It's a trellis frame, but I don't think it's based off of a sport naked. Anyway, those are the 900 class of sport bikes. Hyper sport is anything that is going to legit rev past 12,000 RPM and has a full fairing. And the reason why I put it in those terms is because that's how the rep for Triumph explained it to me. That's more or less how they categorize the bikes. So that kind of makes sense to me. But anyway, that's how I'm describing it. So R6, GSX R600, ZX6, which is the 636, CBR 600. And then you've got the GSX R750 would fall underneath that. And then any of the legit leader class bikes that spin over 12.5. So that would be all the fully fared stuff. Let's see. And that's the way that I would see it. Oh, by the way, Skids, the announcement at the beginning of the show, Tuesdays are now Two-Wheel Tuesdays. So we're going to be talking bikes on Tuesdays exclusively, not going to be talking car stuff. Let's see. Sorry, if I want a new charger, I'd turn around and sell it for a Scat Pack. Yeah, I probably would too. Maybe DNR, maybe Dodge should be. Yeah. Skids bike takeover. So the RC8R is coming. It's the RCR, not the RC8R. Unfortunately, we're not going to get an RC8R from KTM. We are getting the RCR, which is going to be powered by the Duke 990, which is a 950 whatever cc parallel twin. It's going to make just shy of 130 horsepower. Same torque. All the bikes in the 900 class make about the same torque at like 65 to 72 foot-pounds. Oh yeah, DM. Yep, Two-Wheel Tuesdays, baby. That's what we're moving to. So it'll be Moto Chat, and I'm talking all things motorcycles. We can talk if you want to talk cruisers, if you want to talk sport bikes, super sport, hyper sport, whatever the right name is for them. And everything in between. About the only thing that I won't really have a lot on board as far as knowledge will be dirt stuff. I don't have a lot of experience lately with that. I got my start with dirt bikes, but there's a neat crop that are coming from Triumph right now. And of course, they're all cool as far as I'm concerned, but primarily street bikes. We can talk retro stuff, vintage stuff. We can talk all of that. So be on the lookout for Two-Wheel Tuesdays. Let's see. Oh, DM saying, I saw a lot more bikes in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. It was a great time. I hope the bike passion comes back for the masses. And I got to tell you, that is where I see the new crop of sport bikes doing well. And I've got a couple of buddies that absolutely hate the idea of sport bike. Just because when you have when you are in a certain place with your skill set, when you're from a certain background, and you're of maybe a certain age where everything was maxed out, like the 600s were maxed, right? Like you didn't have a lot of bikes that weren't true standard motorcycles. If it had a full fairing on it, that was your race replica. That's what you bought it for. There were some sport touring bikes, but that's really not what we're talking about. We're talking about the high RPM screamers and leader class bikes. And man, I got to tell you, they got a little bit out of hand, frankly. And listen, again, you guys know my relationship with Triumph is pretty strong. And one of the things that we were discussing primarily was what happened to the 675? What happened to the 765? And why didn't they continue to make that motorcycle? When I lived in Northern California, the 675 was kind of weapon of choice up in the mountains. And Skids, didn't all 600 class 2 go out at 186? What is it with that? I never could understand 186. By the way, where the 186 mile per hour thing comes into play is because that was the gentleman's agreement that was going to be the top speed for motorcycles in general. And motorcycle speedometers typically read a little bit off anyway. And so, yeah, they all go 186, don't they? But yeah, it's so anyway, talking about, why didn't they do anything with the 675? And the guy's like, look, man, they just didn't sell. They quit selling. Plus, try to get one to pass Euro 5 emissions. It was going to be a hassle. And that's one of the reasons why that particular platform platform didn't carry on, which I find a little bit curious because the 765 seems to do okay. But irregardless, the main thing is what I don't want to do is I don't want to paint the motorcycle community in a bad light, but dude, the sport bikes now are soft, y'all. Like they're really soft. If you've got to ride one to understand what I mean, and it's okay. It's a criticism. I'm not shading it. They're soft, which is to say suspension is softer, power delivery is soft. They don't hit hard. There is no top end rush. And there's nothing wrong with that. Matter of fact, if you're smart about it, it's actually the right way to go. Look, you can get yourself going to some pretty weird high speeds with pretty low horsepower motors. Okay. You're going to be easily able to go 115, 120 miles an hour with 100 horsepower. Like it's going to happen. All right. It'll get there. And that's not a small amount of power. I think what it is though is, and I'd put this video together, by the way, earlier today. And yeah, I did use the Buell Thunderbolt as my thumbnail. And I meant to do that, by the way. The newer bikes are mainly torque and throttle response. They're not set up for maximum horsepower. And the reason why they're not is because the extra torque really does richen up the riding experience for people that want to enjoy a motorcycle, which is, say, a two-wheeled conveyance, in a more law-abiding manner, if you will. Honestly, I mean, I'm not saying this for effect. There is a group of us that are of a certain age or are of a certain background and are of just the personality type. Look, when I'm hitting twisties and I'm not even the fastest guy in the group, we'll actually wave guys off. Like don't try to keep up. Not a good idea. The last time I was out, I waved off a guy and I'm tail gunning and I'm going, no, stay back, because he was on an R7, not saying he couldn't keep up, but we were going through high speed twisties. And this guy, we came up on him so quick that if this was not going to be good. I know what we're up to, and the sport bike isn't really gonna scratch the itch. And I put it in certain ways. And I didn't put it like this in the video, but this is how I'm gonna put it. And so for you guys that'll watch this again, you're gonna hear me say this again in an upcoming video. So what's the difference between a sport bike, the way that we're seeing them now? Again, 660s that I've mentioned earlier, CBR 650, R7, GSX-8R, and included in that are some of these not very sporty, but kind of sporty 900cc class bikes. Nothing wrong with them. Here's the difference. What's it like if you compare that to GSX-R 750, GSX-R 1000, any of the leader class bikes, ZX6, R6, what's the difference? Okay. The sport bike is like heavy petting with the girl next door. The hyper sports bikes are, you are imbibing in champagne room activities while doing shots with the talent. That's the difference between the two. I will put it a little bit more crudely in the next video, but I think you understand what I'm talking about. Sport bike, very exciting to be sure. No question about it. Damn good time. Good, wholesome fun. Hypersport bike, there's a lot of risk. You might go to jail, but it'll be a story that you'll never quit telling, and a story that folks will never quit telling about you. And you're going to do it again when you get out. That's the thing. So that's hypersport versus sport bike. That's the mentality. And again, they're both exciting. They both have their place. It's just that one of them, you can't survive doing one of them for very long. The other one you can do indefinitely, right? The fun for the whole whoa, wait, hold on. That's not the right way to put it. No, you get what I'm saying though, that the sport bike is not going to invite you to you can still get into trouble. But at least there's a shotgun wedding. The other way around, it includes a police chase and tasers and mace and just misdemeanors. Anyway, that's where the hyper sport class bites you. And but the thing that I make clear is that if that's the bike that you love and you like, then by all means rock it. Because I've never met a motorcycle I don't like. I have modified motorcycles and then didn't like them. The Z1 is a prime example of don't put the wrong exhaust on a bike and make it unbearable to ride. But there is that. Let me check in with you guys. I'm saying, did they get out of Hamby? They lost the masses. Yeah, they did. The nice part was bikes were so popular. There was something for everyone. I don't care what someone rides, just ride with me and have fun. Yeah, that's the main thing, is just enjoy it. I love riding. I cannot think. I am rarely happier. If it's not me and smoking hot hanging out, I'm rarely happier than if I'm on a bike. And if it's her and me on a bike, then I'm even triple times that much happier. So, but yeah, it's I don't really have. I don't have a bike that I've ever disliked, but I have had motorcycles that I've ridden that I wouldn't, for a number of reasons. And damn, one of them was one of the bikes I just mentioned earlier too. And it was a Daytona, but I'll get to that here in one of the Two Wheel Tuesday videos. Sports like going to full ludicrous speed. Yeah, it is. Maybe if I had access to a runway. Oh, Will Run. Yeah, Skids is. Yeah, I heard about that. That's okay. So let me explain to you guys why I do. Oh, and I'm saying hypersport bikes are how I got started on track days. It was cheaper for me to go pay for track time than a $500 ticket. Man, I got into track days. How do I put it? It got to a point where we still did street riding and we're still fairly aggressive up in the mountains, but it got to a point where there were a few times where even I would find myself going, I just got lucky surviving that. And the other thing was there, like up in the mountains in the fog, up in NorCal, San Francisco, fog blows through, and a lot of times the streets end up a little bit wet. And anyway, long short, we want to start doing track days. And so we did. And T Hill was my home track. And I like that track a lot. But it was just a kind of a thing where it was fun. It was more fun to get out and do crazy stuff on the track and then get out and just kind of kick it on the streets and just roll. up through like Blackhawk, up in Honda, on the backside of La Honda, coming up into HMB. It was just more fun to just play on the street, just kind of goof off. Plus, because we're doing track days, we all got a lot better. And so our pace on the street when we weren't trying to kill it was actually pretty fast, all things considered anyway. DM saying same here. Yep. Yeah, it's just you start playing around on the street up in NorCal. The thing is, when the fog comes in, what you guys may not understand is everybody knows what fog is, right? You've seen it, but you've never seen it like you'll see it up in Northern California, because where the Pacific current meets the like the Northern Pacific current, it's like 415 every day. When the fog comes in, it pours in like cream. It's crazy because it's a lot colder than the ambient air. It condenses and it's thick and it's crazy. It looks like somebody's pouring cream over the mountains. And what'll happen is that fog will just condense in the trees up in the mountains, up the hills, and you'll get this runoff. It'll actually be almost like it rained, but there's not a cloud in the sky except for the fog in this case, or in many cases, and you'll get the runoff coming down the mountains. And so it'll be not a cloud in the sky like a day or two later, and you're coming through, say, a left-hander looking up, and there's this 2-foot stream of water coming down the street. Like, what the hell? That's what you'll run into. So DM, yeah, Track saying there's something to be said for everyone in similar equipment running in the same direction. Track's really slowed me down the street. What it did is it made us a lot smoother. So I wouldn't necessarily, you know what? In a way, it did make us slower. It slowed us down. Everything was just happening more slowly. The speed didn't really affect you so much, and you were just a lot more fluid. That's what I discovered anyway, is that you're a little bit more mindful, and you were able to see things a little bit better. So you might not have actually slowed down. It might have been faster. You were just a lot smoother and could see things a lot better. I noticed that with me for sure. But what's weird is I got away from bikes for a long time, and when I got back into them, it was weird because it was like I never quit riding, but I'm still not, how do I say it? I'm still like, there's still some things that I'll pick up on that will slow me down. And there's still some trust issues that I have with tires, frankly, and the surfaces that I'm on. But what's crazy is that at no point does anything go like that. I mean, everything is just, I'll be honest with you. I'm oh, look, it's a pretty tree. Look at butterfly. Oh, look at that. And I mean, but that's why I'm saying, yeah, DM, you're probably faster, like by an order of magnitude. It's just, you don't realize that you're faster because everything is happening and your mind has been trained now. You're so able to just take everything in that the sensation of speed may not be there, but you're probably about 15% more clip. I'd be willing to bet. Oh, true. Well said. Yeah. I mean, that's what I noticed with me. At least when I lived and when I was doing all that stuff back then. Now I'm a little bit slower, only because I don't trust the surface, and I'm trying to figure out tire pressure with this Katana. And so far, it's really liking for the street. It's liking 37, 35 up front. I'm probably going to go to like 36 something in the rear, just 36 and whatever number is after it. And I'll leave the 35 up front. That seems to be like a happy place for that bike. Any more than that, and the bike gets a little, I don't like this. It'll get a little skittish. But with that, guys, I just realized we are coming up to over an hour. So I'm going to wrap it up. X is in. I'll make sure I don't miss anybody. I was going to say, it's the truth about track days. I'm kicking around idea of going out to Crescent in the duck. Do it. I mean, absolutely do it. That could be a fun bike. He's got a 950 SS. That's a fun. You go around the track. You have the lines. You get to have the bike on the side of the tire in a controlled environment with a controlled surface. Get out there and do it and have a great one. But with that, guys, I got to wrap it up. Listen, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it more than you know. Love each and every one of y'all. Would not do this without you. And we will see y'all on the next one. And that is a wrap. Get out and vote. Adios.